Sweet, and we are live. Hey, what's up, everybody? Just getting ready to sit down and do a little drawing for y'all. Today I thought I'd talk about a little something that I'm working on, uh, or that I need to work on as an artist. So I thought it was maybe something we could learn together. One thing I kind of tend to forget to do is I lose a little bit of focus when it comes to perspective. The dreaded perspective. Everybody needs to work on perspective when they draw. Um, I mean, there's people who are great at it and can visually see it without having to actually take perspective into account. Uh, Today, I really want to focus on perspective of the face. Um, so let's get something open here. We'll just go with, um, I'm doing a 17 width by 11 high, 13 res document. Um, and we'll just label it as perspective heads. Boom. There we go. We got that going for us. And now what I'm going to do is get just a little bit of reference up in my web browser, which I always recommend drawing with a bit of reference. Um, Not trying to copy verbatim what your reference is, but use it basically just for the opportunity to, if you can't quite understand the way something should look, reference is always great for that. Plus, it helps you understand uh, exact, like shifting of weight, things like that. Things that, even though we think we might see uh, or visualize it in our head, it's always good to sketch out the idea, um, get it real loose, and then get some reference photos. I always recommend if you're doing your own artwork to, get a friend to pose for you, or something along those lines to shoot reference. Uh, but yeah, excuse me, get a drink of water here real quick. And pardon if you hear a bit of crunching sound in the background. My dog just decided to take it upon himself and eat his pig's ear right behind my computer desk. So, anyways, what I was saying was shooting your own reference. That way, there's never any complications with possible uh, copyright uh, material, things like that. I mean, most of the time, from what I understand, people aren't too picky, but there are instances where, like, a famed artist was actually sued by a media source for using one of their pictures for a political figure. Um, this happened years ago. The guy wasn't found. Um, he wasn't found guilty of copyright infringement because he didn't steal the picture itself and use it basically for his own profit. So it's just always better to be safe, and it gets you to understand the camera angles and helps you get a better thought process of what those figures actually would look like in an environment versus being flat on a picture. Uh, so if can, draw from real life, but if not, shoot reference and get reference of whatever. Uh, Head in perspective. Here I am telling you guys, oh, you should uh you should use your own reference material. But for the purpose of learning about perspective of the head, I want to use a little bit of a guide myself, just so that way I'm doing things properly. Um, so, like all perspective drawings, and this isn't going to be a very long video, I'm going to try and keep it within, you know, half hour, 45 minutes, somewhere around there, just so it's a little short, quick video. Uh, but one of the first things you always need to focus on when you do perspective is your horizon line. And it might help if I'm on a... So, even when drawing a face, you still have to take into account where your horizon line would be. Let's just kind of get something thrown in there. And since obviously the one perspective that I always kind of fall victim to is the 3/4 appearance. But when we look at the the head, we got to think of it in terms of, a lot of people will do an egg shape. I kind of like to get a bit more of an idea. Like, I think of it almost like a half sphere on top of a box instead. So say here's your edges, and this is 2-point perspective, of course. So we need to take in mind that that is a scenario. Um, Brain fart. Anyways, a lot of people also, when they draw down their center line, they want to draw it like perfectly down the center. And seeing as how the front of your face is actually considered to be more of a flat plane, um, when you think in perspective, a lot of your center line will usually tend to be shifted closer to the way it'll appear is it'll be shifted uh, closer to your furthest edge. Um, the way that perspective works, and then of course it will curve up over um, the backside, up the forehead, curve around the top of the head. Uh, Sorry, just when I sit down to draw, somebody's got to text me. Um, so, just to make things easy, we will identify, here's one perspective point, here's another. Uh, so, when we start drawing in this sense, we want our perspective lines to be like roughly here, 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 here. Just kind of getting a quick idea of where I think things should be. A lot of times, like your eyes especially, maybe I should bring this down actually a little bit. Let's get rid of these perspective dots. Let's bring this guy down to where basically his jawline and the truth of the perspective points so they look a little better. They'd be, you know, actually a little further out here. Sorry about that. So let's get back to this. Um, okay, so we know that basically this is where the chin's going to be. We can probably put this perspective point roughly. Well, that's going to be out somewhere around here. And we can think of this actually, oops. But let's think of this building here as what our perspective would be. And we're going to base everything off of the top, oops, horrible drawing. Let's base everything off of a perspective point where we think we would want our shape to be. Kind of something like that. Right about over here. Giving us a bit of a curve, or not a curve, but everything's fading away. So our eye line should be right about here. And our nose right around here. And our mouth right about here. Uh, so yeah, one thing that I noticed that I have trouble with is I always try to kind of visualize the idea of our face being too rounded, and it affects, it really tends to have a huge effect on the way I draw the outside eye on the three-quarter view. Because I always, here, let me pull this up. We'll draw the opacity back on this guy just a bit. Zoom in here just a hair. Let me give you a bit of an example of what I mean. When I start drawing, I'll come in here, realize that I need to pull the nose out here. Bring the nose back in this way. Nostril, eye, eye, brow, brow, head. Holy cow, drawing the professor from Planet Express. Clean this up a little bit more. Why? Oh, drawing on the wrong layer. Feeling like I'm trying to teach somebody something here and I can't even be professional myself. So anyways, let's redo this. So our nose is going to come down kind of like so. And then we're going to have it, let's have it upturned just a bit. Bam. Nostrils. Bam. Mouth. Bam. So this eye, you got to keep in mind that this spot here is a plane, and usually it'll actually connect out this way. So then you get your cheek wrapping here, your brow line here. So imagine this kind of like your eye socket area, your orbital cavity, where your eye is at. I don't know the exact terminology for it, which I should because I did study anatomy in college for the purpose of my artwork. Apparently, it didn't take. Then we know that our ear should come like so. Ear usually runs tip of the ear, and your ear kind of sits. It'll sit back off your cheek. All right, so as I'm drawing this, I'm starting to realize, hey, you're giving this guy basically uh, how should I put this? Almost like comic book type idealized proportions versus actual human proportions, because we know for a fact that the ear kind of comes like so, tends to curve like this. Little action here. Get some of this shape coming in here, that shape there. Just to kind of give an idea. Then from the edge of the ear is where you're going to have your jawline drop down. And then even though the plane is flat, your where your face is at, your jawline curves along that plane, and that's why you see, you get a lot of this kind of curved effect. You get a bit of a bump on this side where the mouth is. And my drawing is terrible. My jaw juts out too far because I'm not taking into account of certain things. Instead, I'm trying to talk, and it's actually affecting everything else. But let's go like this, and then I actually need to account for the fact that your the right side of your face, or the far side of your face in perspective, tends to curve a little bit inward. So we can still have a nice big bold chin we want, and then we get kind of like this. Don't forget about the little curve in the, you know, in there, and then off the nostril, we get the smile line, nose, and this nice big burly lip. Brr. Maybe he's got a hair lip, who knows. So, come like, oops. nose kind of coming in like so. This part of the lip here. And so usually what you get here is this is where jowls will start to form, and a lot of that has to do with the structure right in here. There's a bit of a gap where your jaw starts to curve back on the inside of your mouth, so the skin just kind of hangs and doesn't have any structure underneath it to create form. And that's what tends to cause the sagging of jowls in old people. Although we're not trying to draw an old guy, so let's clean his nose up here. Give him a bit of an actual nostril. And so a lot of times you don't really need to even draw every little detail. It's not important. Just imply some things, and our minds are such amazing, complicated machines that they'll fill in the rest for us. So actually should be like this. So the top of our nose has a bit of a plane itself. And then we know for a fact that that line is going to come here, and we get this curve. We get a curve in this way because of the cleft in our lip. And then kind of an identical curve at the top of the lip. You don't always need that, and you notice a lot of times people will put in a bulb like so at the bottom of the lip because of the way that the lip hangs. And then get a little crease in there. Horrible face. I am not proud of this face, but for me, I'm just trying to rough this in, and I end up drawing Professor Lame over here because he can't draw, even though I can sometimes. But the sweet thing about drawing is, the only way you get better is if you continue to practice, right? And then have the neck come out here. Usually there's some muscle that'll start to bring it that way. We get the sternomastoid coming out here from behind. It almost follows the curve of your jaw and then comes directly down, which this guy would be like right here. And then we'd actually have kind of a divot here, which is right here at the where your two clavicles meet, and they don't actually touch. Uh, and because of the way that we're looking at this face, you wouldn't see his Adam's apple so much unless he was like super long necked. We get this muscle group coming out this way, and then across here we have a clavicle. Here's some horrible lines. This here's the trap. Trap is kind of feeds around your neck. It's got this weird kind of way that it wraps almost, like so. But sometimes I'll just throw a line in there like that to kind of bulge it up a little bit. A lot of my influence comes from comic books, so a lot of my drawing will start out basically this sketchy, and then, or it'll be even less implied than this to start a drawing. Let's give him some actual eyes here. And then under the eye, we get the bag a little bit. We can always have like an additional crease from where your eyelid tucks in to make him kind of angry here. Get some lines coming up like this. But when we do get angry, we have to accent the nose that way too, because when we sneer, we actually pull this part of our face upwards. I think they call it a grimace. That's another good way for reference is get a mirror and use a mirror for reference. If you can't visualize the way that something should look on your face, you know, any of those kind of face shapes, a mirror will really help build your vocabulary in that sense. Get a little bit of this. Actually, the mouth should be like so, kind of. And still give him the big bold chin. Maybe we'll even clef his chin a little bit here, because all the big superhero guys need the nice big butt chin. And then we know for a fact that this area here is going to have shadow cast upon it. The top lip here will have shadow cast upon it. Under the nose, so we'll actually have nose shadow. A little too much nose shadow. We know for a fact that this part of the eyebrow, you got to think of your eye being caved a little bit. So your shadow should actually start around right here and come basically around the ocular cavity itself, not the I think it's called the orbital cavity. But yeah, all this in here is shadow. Same goes for this side. Comes down a little bit. Oh, give him an eye over here as well. Now, we don't have to draw it this way, but I'm just trying to explain where some of the actual shapes come from. We have our in the animation industry, we refer to this as the smile line. Um, we have our cheekbone here, which is can be implied with some cross hatching here. But we have a plane change here, and then we have a plane change here, and then a lot of times we kind of get this almost like kind of feel right in this area where all this will be in shadow as well. Of course, our jaw area being as heavy as it is. And that's one thing I noticed too, is it seems like a lot of people don't tend to think about where the jaw actually hinges, which for us, the jaw hinges here. We have our cranial crest, which is here. If you know anything, you have a bone that actually kind of goes like this. You know, you got your ear hole right under it, but where this bone lays, let me get rid of that and come back to it on a new layer so that way I can scrap it once I'm done defining where this bone lays here. It is called your, let me think, why can't I think of what it's called? Anyways, there's an actual hole that comes right through the side of this bone. So this here, where your cranium, the side of your temple is, this curve is it's not a super deep, like you see on dogs and stuff, where they actually have a crest that'll part down the middle of their skull, and then they have these huge divots on the side of their head, and that's because their masseter muscle, which helps pull their jaw tight, takes up most of that space. That's why pit bulls have them huge like balls on the side of their head. Um, so basically, you have all this muscle that's coming kind of down through the hole that's created here in this area, and you get your ear hole roughly right around there. Um, so if you were to do teeth would come back kind of like so. And then you get kind of like this jaw shape here, which hinges. And you have all this void, but you do have a small piece of almost like tendon. And like I said, that's kind of where that skin will start to drag. And you see it in like zombie films and stuff where like they'll be missing their cheek, but they still got that extra little strand that seems to be like it helps pull the jaw. That that's this muscle right here. If you clench your teeth, you can feel it tense up, and that's going to be right back here. So you get this guy coming down this way, and then you get this big ass muscle coming here, helping to pull on your jaw. And yep, I know it's becoming kind of a cluttered mess, but if you're just following along, you get the just idea of, here's your, like I said, here's your jaw, here's your orbital cavity, here's the crests, cranial crest, forehead. Then you get these weird like skull lines that come up here, and then it divides in three, I want to say. Um, that's why babies have the soft spot, because they actually have a small hole in their head when they're born. Because when they're squeezed out the birth canal, uh, it actually pushes their head closer together, compresses that hole, and that creates that soft spot. That tends to be right in this area, I want to say. Uh, then nose wise, you get this nose bone that comes out here, and then it actually curved out in this way. Let me lower this guy down just a, oops, wrong one. Let's lower this down just a hair. So you get kind of like this. Oops. So you get kind of this, and you get your sinus area. You get remnants of your septum, and you get teeth. That'll all curve, come out right here. Kind of get the idea. Like I said, I know it's getting a little garbled up there, and that's why I want to throw it on a different layer, just to give you guys an idea. I don't know if I've been any help at all, but yeah, this is one thing, like I said, I just wanted to go over some of the details about drawing a face in perspective, keeping in mindset, things as far as that your eyes, they don't wrap, they're flat on the plane. Um, your nose juts out from the plane. Your lips and chin will tend to jut slightly from the plane. Cheekbones, make sure you define your cheekbones a little bit. Um, you don't have to get too heavy into it. A lot of times when I'm drawing, I'll just squiggle lines and then try and make something out of it. Uh, it's me just doing some free form doodling, which helps me be creative without thinking. Um, so then I'll, take what I have here, go in and turn it down a whole bunch. There we go. And I'll just start to look for what I kind of see in this shape, like, do I want to take this guy and make him kind of really weird looking, like give him this big old forehead here, this little dainty nose. Then you have this big old jawline here. So he's gonna have a little bit of lips. A little bit of lips, nothing big. And then I always like to give guys like barely any neck or chin, I should say. So give him a little chin, but everything else kind of droops. And then here's the neck here, cartoony. Let's think of this in cartoon terms. It's ear, cartoon proportions. Love them because it's how we get these awesome caricatured ideas, and nothing has to be perfect. Give them some nice big eyes. Hey, give him a little bit of cheekbone, maybe. He's got just a little dainty nose. I don't know what's with that, but it's upturned just a hair. Goes down into his little mouth. Give him some little pencil eyebrows. and then comes in his hair. It's got kind of like some weird toupee-ish kind of feel going on. Nice big forehead. Big old meaty beluga forehead. Hey! Or I can look at this guy and be like, okay, so here I have, here's my face, chin, kind of put his eyes, just happened to work perfectly, that the horizon line was right there. Give him some, let's erase that. Give him a little upturned nose because we're looking underneath him. Give him kind of a manly scowl. Brr, brr. A little bit of this. Big old cheekbone. And this guy, of course, he gets the big bushies. Give him a little, you know, we don't really see it on this side because of the curve of his face, but we can accent it over here a lot more. Give him just big old orbital uh, structure. Give him some tiny ear back here. Jaw comes in. Big old meaty neck. This guy's a bodybuilder. And even when you're drawing for cartoony type reasons, it's still a really good idea to have a sense of anatomy. You can overly push the proportions all you want, but you still need to keep that structure in mind. Give him some little bit of it's got kind of that horrible I'm in my 20s, can barely grow facial hair kind of goatee. Maybe a little horrible mustache. And then his hair. His hair is just like this guy's just got some flowing hair. Flowing. You know, most dudes are worried about their gut. This guy's worried about his hair. And of course, we can come in here and size this up just a little bit. We'll blacken this area because you can't see his hair back there. We'll actually just come in and let's make things easy. Let's go like this. Up. once we do that, switch over to white. Come in and start cutting some highlights on this hair. Getting some of that. Oops. Some of that. Hey, bro, don't mess with my hair. Where do you get such luscious, beautiful hair? I mean, it's like terrible, but it's beautiful. So, anyways, yeah, just a couple ideas of how I draw, and like I said, this stuff here is just for doodling fun. Get out some creativity. A lot of times I go out in public with these doodles, and I'll take things that I see and try to mimic almost caricatured proportions in a very cartoony manner to people that I see out in public. But the perspective stuff, if you're not good at it, always revert back to the fundamentals of perspective. And as long as you do, one day you'll notice you won't even need it. That's where I hope to be at some point. Um, Hope y'all enjoyed what I did today. If anybody's out there watching, if you like my video and hope to see some more, stop back by, hit the like button or whatever. Uh, um, Follow me, do those things. Uh, if not, if anybody's new out there and hasn't watched any of my other videos while I was just drawing and talking about artwork and stuff, um, you know that I will be trying to put forth a couple live videos here every couple days, and yeah, you guys have a good day, and we'll see you next time.